Hi, Jesus. You're so beautiful.
Jesus, you're here again? The question slipped from Kesan's mouth in a faint voice, almost like a whisper cradled by tears. He was lying in the same hospital bed, surrounded by the same wires, monitors, and the anxious breathing of those who loved him. But something in the room had changed. The air felt lighter. The light, though soft, was different, as if it didn't come from the lamps, but from somewhere else, from another world. I saw you again, Jesus. His mother tried to smile, wiping the tears streaming down her own face, and held her son's fragile hand. I'm here, my love. You're with me. But Kesan was looking beyond. He wasn't speaking to her. His eyes, fixed on an invisible point in the room, gleamed with emotion and awe. He wasn't dreaming. He was seeing. You smiled at me, Jesus. Again. The nurse entered the room with a cautious expression, as if stepping onto sacred ground. She had witnessed things before, but nothing like this. A presence lingered in the room. It wasn't fear. It wasn't despair. It was peace. An inexplicable peace that seemed to come from the boy's tears. I was crying, but you wiped away my tears. He spoke as if conversing with a friend, without theology, without rehearsal, without invention, just with truth. Kesan was having an encounter, not a delusion, not a fever, but a visitation. Jesus told me he loves me, and that he loves Mommy too. He said it looking into my eyes. He said he hasn't forgotten me or Daddy. His mother swallowed hard. The mention of his father was still an open wound. A year had passed since the car accident took her husband's life. Since then, Kesan asked about him almost every day, but now he spoke of his father with a tranquility that both cut and healed at the same time. I saw him again, Mommy. Daddy. He was holding hands with Jesus. The boy's voice trembled, but not from fear. It was emotion. And when he continued speaking, something took hold of the room. It wasn't hysteria nor euphoria. It was reverence. He called me by my name, Daddy. He was laughing, and he called me by the nickname he used to use, my champion. I heard it, Mommy, like he was right here in the room. His mother brought her hand to her mouth. The tears flowed effortlessly. She believed, but she never imagined she'd witness something like this. And when Kesan continued, everything within her surrendered. The sky, it's so beautiful. I saw it again. I saw flowers dancing with the wind, colors that don't exist here. There was music that has no sound, but that you feel inside. And butterflies. So many butterflies. His grandmother, sitting in the corner of the room, began to pray silently. They weren't formal words. It was just a murmur of gratitude. That moment was too pure to be interrupted. Jesus showed me a tree with fruits of light. He said each fruit is a fulfilled promise, and that one of them was mine. You'll be okay, my son, his mother said through sobs. I know, Mommy. Jesus told me it's not my time yet, but he wanted to remind me that heaven is real, that he is real, and that Daddy is with him, very much alive. The heart monitor beeped softly as if keeping rhythm with the revelation. The boy spoke without effort. It wasn't delirium. It was serene conviction. He said, we forget that he's near, but he's always there, even when we feel nothing. Even when everything seems dark. The nurse, who had been standing by the door, choked back a sob. It was more than she could bear. It was as if Kesan's words tore through the veil between heaven and earth, and I saw God again, with eyes of fire, the same eyes I saw last time. They don't burn, they love. They see everything, even what we hide in our hearts. What were his eyes like, son? His mother asked, as if treading on holy ground. Like living light, like fire that doesn't hurt, like truth. He closed his eyes for a moment and let the silence speak for him. I told him I love him, and he smiled. The room was silent. All that could be heard was the uneven breathing of those present and the sound of Kesan's heart, marking the rhythm of something eternal. Jesus said I still have a lot to live for, Mommy, but he just wanted to remind me that I'm not alone. Neither are you, nor anyone who believes. He slowly turned his head and stared fixedly at the corner of the room. He's there now. His mother turned but saw nothing. Even so, she didn't doubt. He's holding my hand, even if no one can see. And then, with a simplicity that pierced the soul, he said, "Thank you for letting me see again, Jesus." At that moment, the light in the room seemed to shift. It wasn't physical, it was spiritual. as if the visible world surrendered to the invisible, if only for a few seconds, as if eternity said, "I'm here." Kesan took a deep breath, as if receiving rest. "He told me to say something to you, Mommy." She leaned closer, her eyes brimming with tears and her heart racing. He said, "Tell her I still write with my finger in the sand, that I still forgive, that I still wait, and that I still love." His mother fell to her knees. It was more than words. It was more than emotion. It was truth. And in that instant, all questions about faith, heaven, and life after death were answered in a way no theologian could ever explain. A boy lying in a hospital bed had just touched the heart of God, and ours too. Kesan remained silent for a few minutes, lying with his eyes open, still fixed on something no one else seemed to see. His breathing was calm, as if his entire body was enveloped in a peace that came from elsewhere. His mother remained kneeling, hands clasped, praying without speaking. She no longer needed to ask for explanations. She didn't need to understand. She simply believed. Then, with a trembling voice, Kesan said something no one expected. "Jesus said heaven is near." His grandmother lifted her eyes, surprised. "What do you mean, son? It's not far away like we think. He said heaven begins when we believe, that it enters our hearts, and that's where heaven starts, right here." The nurse, who had let a few tears fall, discreetly pulled her phone from her pocket and began recording. It wasn't out of curiosity. It was out of awe. She knew that moment needed to be remembered, because it wasn't every day that someone, especially a child, spoke words that seemed to come straight from the mouth of God. He also said that many children see before adults do, because their hearts still believe without doubting. His mother nodded. It explained so much. Kesan had never been an ordinary boy. He always had a sensitivity to things others ignored, but now she understood that perhaps it was a calling, a gift, a continuous visitation. And he said that when I pray, he hears, that even when I speak softly, he listens. "You talked to him again, Kesan?" "I did, and I asked, 'Jesus, why do you keep coming back to me?' And you know what he said? He said, 'Because you called me.'" The silence in the room was instantaneous. The boy's words echoed in the heart of every person present. How many times had they prayed without faith? How many times had they asked for answers and thought nothing happened? But Kesan had called, and Jesus came. He said we complicate things too much, that he just wants us to talk to him for real, without fear, without shame. And then he turned his face to the ceiling and smiled. "I called you, Jesus, and you came." At that moment, the heart monitor let out a different sound. It wasn't an alarm, it wasn't an alert. It was just a reminder that Kesan was alive, more alive than ever. He wasn't just breathing air, he was breathing hope. His mother ran her hand through his hair, and he closed his eyes for a moment. "Jesus also said that Daddy smiles every time I remember him with love, that he sees me, yes, and that he's waiting for me too." She held back her tears, but couldn't. The tears came like a river dammed up for months. "He told me something about you too, Mommy." She looked into her son's eyes. He said, "Tell your mother I've collected every tear she's cried, that none were lost, that I keep them all like pearls, and that one day she'll understand why she had to go through what she did." The weight of those words fell like an embrace from heaven. His mother cried silently, and even the nurse, trying to maintain her composure, turned her face and let the tears flow. "And you know what else he said?" Kesan continued. "He said he's coming back, that it's near, that time is running out, and that we need to be ready." "How do we get ready, son?" He said, "By believing, by loving, by forgiving, by hoping." His grandmother was now holding her grandson's hands, murmuring prayers of adoration. Not out of fear, but out of gratitude. She knew what was happening. It wasn't a goodbye. It was a rebirth. Kesan sighed deeply and smiled again. "I told Jesus I want to see him always, and he said that even when I don't see him, he's still near." The nurse stopped recording. She didn't know if she'd ever have the courage to share it, but she knew that video would be a testimony, a milestone. Then the boy extended his hand and pointed to the corner of the room once more. "He's still there, and now he's smiling at you all too." Silence filled the room again, but it was a silence full of presence, full of glory, full of faith. In the Bible, it is written in Isaiah 11:6 that a little child shall lead them. And there, in that hospital, a boy was leading adult hearts to the understanding that heaven is real, that Jesus hears, and that God continues to visit those who have the faith of a child. And when morning came and the sunlight touched the room's windows, Kesan slept in peace, not because he was tired, but because he was full of a hope that only those who see heaven up close can explain. And before closing his eyes, he said the final words of that sacred night, "If you call Jesus, he comes."